So today we're going to talk about how to use a Mushi Nabe, which is a donabe, a clay pot that you can use for steaming vegetables. You can also use it for hot pot, and it's very flexible. What I'm doing today in my theme of working with unusual and unique items is none of the ingredients are weird, but what I'm doing with them is a little unique. So this is arguably fusion. I'm using Italian and California ingredients, but using Japanese technique. So on the camera, what you can see is I've just got some chicken broth, and there's a piece of kombu, which is kelp. This kombu happens to be from Kishiro in eastern Hokkaido that we picked up on a trip from Japan last year. But you can go to any Asian market, and you can even order it from Amazon. So the kelp adds some umami to the chicken stock. Could you do what I'm doing with dashi instead and make it full on Japanese? Yes, but in this case, what we're doing is I'm gonna combine some different cultures. So step one, letting the kombu marinate in the kelp a little bit, and we're gonna turn on. It's not too hot. Now you don't really want it to get too hot, so I'm just going to let it simmer a little bit and let that kelp open up. And then what we're doing is, this is a plate of vegetables. This time of year in California is a wonderful time to go to the farmer's market. So these are we've got sugar snap peas, broccoli, some little squash, a couple different kinds of tomatoes on there, and it's very pretty. I think you'll see.
What time of year is this?
This is summer.
Okay.
Okay. So, again, I would recommend you put the heavier duty vegetables on the bottom, and the lighter ones are on top. So I'm not going to put this on yet. So going to back to our chicken stock here. This is where it's going to get a little more Italian-y. So this is a bagna cauda. So bagna cauda is, it's an Italian type of sauce. Usually this is done in kind of like Italian fondue. It's anchovies, garlic, and olive oil that's been simmered for a while. Some little bit of chili in there also. And you can take this bagna cauda, and I'm going to add it to the broth, and this is going to, instead of using dashi, this is another way of adding layers upon layers of umami and flavor. So this is all going in. And those chunks in there is garlic. That's been cooked for a long time. There's a little like anchovy pieces and then some chili. You could also just put some anchovies in right now. You could put some olive oil in right now. You could, again, just really do whatever you want, just to layer on that flavor. So that's going in. Also, what we want to do is we're going to add a little bit of ghee, which is clarified butter. So the butter, of course, we want to give it some flavor. And the butter is going to even add another level of velveting and succulence to this. So that is going in now. So we're just going to let that kind of melt and cook a little bit. And let me let that come to a boil. As you can see, the chicken stock and the bagna cauda with the kelp, with the kombu is at a simmer. I'm going to let that boil just a little bit harder. I don't want it too hard. But what I want to be able to show you here is, can you get that? This is the steamer. This is ceramic. And this has the vegetables on it, and this is shortly going to go on top, and we're going to steam these vegetables. Before I do that, I want to add some herbs. So we've got some tarragon, we've got some thyme, we've got some crushed parsley here, or chopped parsley. You'll notice I don't need to add salt with all those anchovies and chicken stock. It doesn't need any more salt. So now, I'm going to let this come to a little more of a boil here. And then these vegetables, you might have to check it, but I'm going to say they're going to need to steam for about 7 to 10 minutes, maybe longer. This broccoli's a little bit thick. So So you'll see this nifty little device here. So this helps you pick everything up before and after. So I'm gonna put that on. Then we have our lid, very important. You see it's a domed lid, so that's how I can get all these veggies on. You'll see there's one opening there, so to allow the steamer to add a little bit of steam and let it breathe a little bit. So we're gonna hit the timer for about 7 to 8 minutes or so. And one thing when you're making food like this, the nose knows. So what I'm actually looking for is the smell of the vegetables cooking. When I start smelling the vegetables having that cooked vegetable smell, which is different than a raw vegetable smell, then that's how you know that it's ready to be removed off the fire. So we're gonna hit the timer. Alexa, stop.
8-minute timer stopped on Echo Studio L.
So as you can see with the donabe, we're still, you can see the steam coming out of the hole. I've had to turn down the heat a few times because it was getting a little bit too bubbly around the sides. And so it's been about 8 minutes. And so we're gonna check. I very much recommend these silicone mitts. The regular mitts you couldn't really do this with. Now I'm eyeballing this. Let's see. It might be done. Let's find out. Trusty fork. That looks pretty tender. Oh, this is perfect. Okay, so this was a lot of stuff in here, and it cooked in 8 minutes. All right. So now what we're going to need to do is first we're going to remove the vegetables off the heat. To do that, we need our trusty tool. So you need to reach in. Oops, it helps to turn the stove off. And helps if you do it the correct direction. Don't get burned. Now, just scoop the vegetables into a bowl, and they're gonna come back around again. So, all right, done with this guy. Let's put him away. Now, the next part. We've got some beautiful Argentine red shrimp. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this yummy broth that we just created and we're gonna cook the shrimp right in the broth. So here we go. Shrimp cook very fast. You don't wanna overcook shrimp. It's a terrible tragedy. Everybody overcooks shrimp. I hate that. So now you've got these delicious shrimp cooking, and you see how they were translucent color. We're gonna wait for them to get a little more opaque, and that's how you tell they're done. But the important part is to not overcook them. So they're now cooking in this lovely chicken stock, kombu, herbs. We got the bagna cauda in here, the butter. So these are gonna have a fantastic flavor. And the shrimp is multitasking, because the shrimp is also, the essence of the shrimp is flavoring the stock. So this shrimp is going to wind up flavoring the vegetables next. So now if you look at the shrimp, you can see it's starting to get opaque. It's curling a little bit. And this is about seconds from being done. And like I said, the last thing we want to do is overcook it. And I'm actually going to consider it done at this point. See how quick that was? So we're going to fish these guys out. And again, you see how they're opaque. Now, as we are fishing these out, this dish could be, you could go from here, you can go in any number of different directions. First of all, this didn't have to be shrimp. This could have just been vegetarian. This could have been tofu. This could have been just the broth. If we're doing it in a traditional, whether it's Italian or Japanese style, we would have served this as a hot pot at like a fondue. We could have served, and then you would use this sauce as a dipping sauce. So we could be done. We would have, this would be a party. We'd have vegetables. You could give, people would just dip it in the sauce and go. But what we're gonna do is, this is just dinner for two, and unfortunately it's pandemic season, so we don't have guests right now. And so the vegetables are gonna go right back in, and we're gonna serve these vegetables with this as a sauce. So literally, that's what I'm doing. Oh, but before I do that, first thing we wanna do is we wanna get, this is some lemon juice and some zest. And I actually forgot, I wanna put a little bit of it onto the shrimp, because you wanna always combine acid with fat. So I'm gonna put a little bit of it onto the shrimp. We'll stir that up in a second. And then the rest of it goes right in the stock. And the vegetables are going back in. We're gonna stir all that up. I wanna let it simmer just 1 second, just to get all those flavors marinating and completely into want the shrimp flavor to absorb into the vegetables. So what we have now is the finished product. We're looking at my Argentine red shrimp, and we have these vegetables that were steamed and then had the sauce poured over them. And at this point, I suggest you can use a little bit of yuzu or whatever you want to serve. Here's the completed plate. Certainly you could serve this on rice, on noodles, bread, anything you want to do. And again, the thing to take away with this recipe is it's extremely flexible. You can just use whatever herbs and spices you want. I could have easily have done this with curry or something spicy or again, different fish. It's super flexible. And yes, there was a good amount of butter in there, but it's still a pretty healthy dish overall. And I recommend you try it.